We're live.
We're live, Mary Mitchell.
We are live, Dr. Keith. Welcome back to Wellness Wednesday. Thank you for joining us.
Yes,
This is
well,
supported by Artists Striving to End Poverty, A Step. And we have many special guests today. But first of all, my co-host, Dr. Keith Bell.
hi, I'm Dr. Keith Bell coming to you from Richmond, Virginia. And it's great to have everybody back for Wellness Wednesday, where we bring together professionals of the healing arts and the creative arts to support wellness in the community. Mary Mitchell.
And today we have three people that I just love and adore and have loved and adored for a long time because we've all been in the Broadway industry for a hot minute. And so I would like to introduce
Hi, Mary Mitchell.
Pearl and Anne and Diane. Thank you for being here. And please, if you don't mind, give us just a little update on how you're just currently doing in like today. We're all kind of working from today, but feel free to tell us like how things are going at this particular moment today. I'll just share that I have spent the day working with one of my dogs who has been ill and is doing much better, and the sun is shining. And so I'm feeling more optimistic with the weather change. I have found that the weather affects me a lot more than I expected. Pearl, how are you today?
I'm okay. That's always an interesting question, especially nowadays. I got out yesterday. In the last couple of days, I got out to the park and took walks with friends and with my husband. Because that's what we do now. We have to really, at least for myself, I try to walk with other people these days. It's a crazy time. It's a crazy time.
It is a crazy time.
I still try to remain hopeful. I try to see what I can do. I try to do a little bit every day, something that it makes me feel like I'm moving the ball forward. But yeah, other than that, I'm okay. I'm okay, hanging in.
Hanging in. And I want to come back to the amazing activism you have online that I think is so powerful for us to all talk about how we are supporting the AAPI community right now and how we are finding resources for people to be able to know where to go to be a better supporter. But really quickly, Anne, Diane, how are you two today?
I'm okay. Kind of similar. I'm not in my house in New York. My house in New York is nowhere near this enormous. So it's exciting for me to be here because I'm so much closer to nature. When the sun is shining, you really feel it. The house lights up, and it's a much brighter start than I would have in New York. I think it's been kind of a weird, rough time. I spend most of the day trying to get my kid a vaccine appointment. Totally have failed so far. But this is how it is. We live in the biggest city, and we're all competing for slots. That's all it is.
Right. Have you been able to get a vaccine appointment for yourself?
Yes, ma'am. I've gotten my first shot, and I'm getting my second shot next week.
My first is today. After the
awesome.
Oh, that's amazing.
I'm excited.
Life's moving forward. Yeah.
Amazing. Diane, how are you?
Same, tired. I've been in hibernation. I've decided to, for the most part, I've taken social media off my phone. I'm just going into my bubble. And I'm peeking my head out just to kind of check in, but not the way I had been, which was pretty like hyper vigilant, doom scrolling and feeling the need to disseminate as much information in as short amount of time as I could, and scrambling to do everything, be everywhere. And it was really taking a toll on me. And it's been good since I've contracted my world a little bit. Media has such, social media and electronics have such an intense energy to them that when you've been away, you can actually feel it. And I was like, oh, it's like I stepped into a really fast, it's like stepping into Times Square. And, I realized there's a few things that if I get into my day, I will be better for it. And one of them is I've been moving my body like Pearl, walking and running. I just came for a run, so if I seem a little euphoric, I am, but it's not the norm. It's I've just been kind of like angry, sad, blinders on, doing a little better now.
But it sounds like you're doing proactive self-care, which is admirable at this
Yeah,
moment.
it sounds like
I
all
have
three
to
of you
say.
are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Taking control of what you can control, stepping out into nature, which in positive psychology is called transcendence. So you connect with something greater and it makes you feel better, and learning to control the little things like the media. Once we control something small in our life, it actually gives us control over more things. So those are great self-care tips to get through this predicament that we're in.
Which has a lot of layers to it. I mean, we've all been dealing with this pandemic. We've all been dealing with our industry being shut down. We've all been dealing with not having access to each other physically. I mean, that's a lot of layers. But then we've had, as you have lived through intensely, this recent increase in violence for the AAPI community. And I'm just curious, what I think is really important that I love about all three of you is that you are all doing the things that you need to do specifically for, that is individual. And I think it's important for everybody to really take stock of like, what is the best way to take self-care without trying to imitate someone else, but just really like asking the questions about how do I best take care of myself and my loved ones. But for those of us that want to support, do you have any, I guess, advice about just ways to reach out or not reach out? Do you have any thoughts around whether we should call people or not call people, or check in or not check in? Curious. Anne.
I think this is one of those, do what you think is best kind of calls, because if you're close friends with somebody, that's different than just sort of a random person checking in on you. If it's a close friend and you feel like you want to say something. I mean, I've had people reach out to me and say, like, if you need an escort anywhere, call me anytime. I'm completely available, which makes me feel so taken care of, even though I don't. I mean, I'm not, going up on myself right now, but if I was, I would call them if I felt scared. And again, you just don't know day to day how you're going to be feeling. And the situation might change depending on like what kind of vibes you get out in the world. So I feel like that's a lovely gesture to make. Also, I think for me, I feel like if I knew I was surrounded by my community all the time, I would never feel afraid. And I think the idea of that is you have to, if you can advocate for somebody who's in trouble, please do so. And, in the safest possible way, of course. No one is suggesting that you necessarily throw yourself in the middle of a violent situation. But if you can even say like, hey, what are you doing? Or, what's going on? At least that, might help somebody else who is feeling vulnerable and in trouble.
Well,
I would just say,
I'm curious, Anne, and both of you, all of you, what does it feel like when someone calls you up and says, do you need an escort?
Well, it's horrible that somebody would have to call and ask that, but it's also a very lovely gesture to make, to say, I'm here for you. Now, I'm not saying you have to go do this for all your Asian friends at all. At all. But I do feel like, I think it's a nice, when my friend reached out to me, I was sort of surprised, but I was very touched. That's all.
Okay.
I mean, I'm very fortunate that I have several friends who live within 5-6 blocks of me. And they have all offered to, be my companion to walk with me in Central Park. And because that's what I have always done. This city has always been for me a walking city. And, I would walk 20,000 steps a day, easy. And although I'm not fearful per se, but what I am is I'm on guard all the time. And the moment I step out the door, I'm guarding myself, preparing myself in case of something happening. And there have been enough incidents in Central Park for me to feel that bit of unsafe feeling. So I'm grateful, and it, you know, really, really means a lot to me when my friends say, hey, do you want me to come join you for a walk? And it's great, because when I had that companion, even though people do get attacked with other people, there is a little bit, I can have a little bit of a more sense of security that somebody else is there as well if anything happens, right? But you know, I have immediate ideas of how, in which ways to help, and also long-term ideas. There is you know, Anne was talking about stepping in when you feel safe and comfortable, and I think a lot of people don't really know how to, especially in the moment, because many people fortunately have not been in a position like this before, if they've had to witness something violent or an attack of that sort. And Hollaback is a fantastic organization that, you know, runs bystander trainings a couple times a day at this point. And it really just kind of paints a scenario for you, and also gives you tangible steps that you can take in the moment. And if you feel unsafe, you can call 911, you can shout at them just to distract them, just to make them understand that somebody else is watching. And just that shift changes something. Asian Americans Advancing Justice is a great organization to be involved with or donate to. Asian American Federation, they also collect monies to then distribute to many different organizations that help support AAPI for lawyers, for medical bills, for all sorts of assistance. And then recently there's been this incredible young woman who created a fund for rides for Asian American Pacific Islanders who feel unsafe to walk around, who need perhaps a ride somewhere. And so Cafe Maddie, CAFEMADDY cab, CAB, at Cafe Maddie cab is her PayPal account, and you can donate to that. And I make sure that I vet things before I say anything, because especially when it comes to money, it gets a little tricky. But those are like my immediate thoughts. And then long-term, as a parent, if there are any parents out there who are listening and you have children in schools, please reach out to your schools, especially those history classes, your history teachers, and talk to them about incorporating Asian American history into your curriculum. We have been here for centuries, and we are Americans. And that is part of the issue here, is that we are seen as perpetual foreigners, and we are seen as others. We are seen as disposable, and we are, you know, in some people's frame of mind, like not human. And so because of that, these attacks are just far more frequent and easy for certain people. So I think the more we grow and learn about each other's histories and understand that we are all part of this fabric that makes up America, that's a long-term goal that I'm hoping for.
And passionate about.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Those are amazing. And I just want to say today there's a 3 o'clock bystander with Paolo.
Yes.
Yes.
Broadway community,
Paolo
which I
Montalban is
really want to take that one. 'Cause I just
co-leading.
love him. And I also, Pearl, because of you and because of, you know, I follow your social media, and because of you, I learned about Cafe Maddie, which I thought was such a smart idea. Such a smart idea.
Well, and also Diane, over this past year, has created 2 incredible organizations. We have Racism is a Virus, as well as Unapologetically Asian. And the work that she has been doing on the ground has been incredible, which is also, you know, anybody who's doing any kind of activism, work of any kind, understands the toll it takes on you and the requirement for self-care and breaks. So take a breath, take a break, so that you can then go again. Because if you completely deplete yourself, then you're going to be useless in the fight. So I just want to appreciate and honor both Anne and Diane for all the work that you do. Like, having these conversations is not easy, but they're necessary, you know.
No, Diane, please.
I just wanted to say that along the lines of what people think they can do, and I just kind of want to reverberate and jump on what Pearl's been saying, and also Anne, like, there are those of us, what care looks like to me is when I'm not the only one saying something. Like, sitting here and just listening to Pearl talk, and I'm like, yes, that and that and that. And, you know, it's like there's another person here in it, you know, who's also fighting the fight. And if, you know, people wonder how they can help, and they don't know how to help, or they don't know how to reach out, but it's the simple act of saying, like, oh, I know what's going on, and I'm also gonna add my voice to this. You know, I think the hardest part is feeling like you're alone in this, and that's what anything evil, it's all about making you feel isolated or ashamed or afraid, right? And I think the antidote to that always is community and caring and connection, right? So I can't overstate enough the Hollaback. I saw one of their trainings yesterday. My husband was actually, through his office, through his work, was doing a training, and our friend Dax Valdez was facilitating it, the wonderful, amazing Dax Valdez. And I was like, look, there he is doing it. And I got to watch it, and it's really incredible stuff, because it's stuff that we don't always think about. And the idea is that if we know we're walking out into this city, and we know that this is a normal thing where most people have taken this training, have taken the time to understand what Hollaback is teaching us, that, you know, at any point in time, you know, someone's going to step up, you know, someone's going to say something. You know, we can change the culture of our city, of our country. You know, New York feels different than other places in the world because we are kind of all packed together, and it is kind of like a hotbed of everything good and everything bad all at once. But we can shift that culture if we know, oh, everyone's doing this. This is a thing we're doing. This is a main thing we can do to help. Or we're donating to community funds so that it's the community taking care of each other. That we're not going, hey, let's ask police to do the job, or let's ask government to do the job, but we're taking responsibility for ourselves as a community, so that we know it's not just one person here or there being an activist or passionate about it, or the person you go to for a resource, you know. I think it's all about, like, us taking the onus on ourselves as community members. You know, when Black Lives Matter, what happened last summer with George Floyd, you know, I think a lot of our community saw that and was like, we cannot let the Black community stand alone. You know, or was it Lainey Second was saying this, one of the last conversations we had together, it's about solidarity, and that's how we're going to get through it together, you know. And I know the Asian American community back then was feeling, you know, we were going through pain too, but I just loved what Lainey said. She said that was a moment, especially, that we needed to be there for that community, and we needed to be there for our Black siblings, to stand with them in their pain, and we would just do whatever it took. You know, I knew at that point we were still deep in pandemic, and I was like, I'm marching. I don't care if I die. I literally don't care if I die. I have to march for this. So, you know, I'm a non-linear person. I'm very, I hope that was easy to follow, but it's just hopping on the idea of community, not letting, on a macro level, on a micro level, not letting your friends or your other community members feel like they're alone. You don't always have to use your voice. You don't always have to march. You don't always have to post articles, or definitely not put yourself in danger. But whatever little way you can think to show you care. Even in, you know, in Hollaback, they said, even if it's like lowering your mask down and giving somebody on the train who you saw getting bullied or something like that or harassed a knowing smile, it dramatically lowers the point of trauma for that person experiencing it. Something as simple as that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because
Well-
they've been seen, they've been acknowledged.
Acknowledgement.
Right.
Acknowledgement. It's acknowledgement, right?
Yeah.
And I
And
think
Like,
Well, and to what Diane was saying, every little bit helps. So don't feel like you have to be on panels. Don't feel like you have to, post a lot. Don't feel
oh,
like
yeah,
you
no.
have to do whatever you can or what feels right for you and genuine for you. And that's enough. It's enough.
It's plenty.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of these points are so important. And as a white person, the big thing that I keep thinking about is that the white people really have to step up, like just really have to step up. And I'm encouraging all of the people that are listening that are white, that this is our fight. This is our fight. Like it can't just be a situation where, we want to only provide support and empathy. Like there has to be an active dismantling of white supremacy that comes from white people, in my opinion.
Because
So-
it's a white construct.
That's right.
Yes.
That is
So-
exactly right.
Because it's a white construct, it needs to be dismantled by white people. We can do as much as we can, and we're voting, we're marching, we're doing all the things, but ultimately it is a white construct. And so we need our white allies to be as vehement as we are about removing this cancer from our
Right.
country. I mean,
Yeah.
just obliterate it,
I feel like a lot of white people go into the scarcity mentality where they feel like there's a lack of resources, or that we have to share something, and in order to share we have to lose something, and so a lot of people are not, they're de-evolution, and they're going into this tribal mentality where they have to protect what they have. But compassion, there's not just a limited resource of compassion, and there's not a limited resource of community. I mean, we just need to all come together. And Mayor Mitchell, you're exactly right. If we don't stand up for the racism that we have brought into this world, we have to be there to deconstruct it.
I mean, I think that, I did want to make sure that we mentioned this, your wonderful organization that you're one of many wonderful organizations, Mary, that you're a part of and that you've co-created for Muse Online, and the scholarships that are being offered to help support musicians of color. It's fantastic. And, things like that, that's how it all starts. That's how shift and change starts in the arts, which then translates to representation, which then translates to, lay people watching, hearing, seeing more of us, and it not being a foreign thing. All right.
Right.
Or
Absolutely.
even a different thing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like, I'm longing for the day when we don't have to keep categorizing actors by their race. Like,
Right.
he's the best Black actor there is, or she's the best Asian actress. It's like, we're just actors, like you never go like, she's the best white actress in the world. Nobody ever says that. So it's sort of like, we're just actors. And then, or whatever, pick a group, whatever it is, But I do think it's extraordinary to encourage, all minorities in the arts, and which we need them more now than ever, I think.
We do, because we need more voices at the table.
Yeah.
That's
But I
what's
think
going
this
to,
is the
make us
perfect time
stronger.
for it. This seems to be the perfect time, this break that was needed, this pandemic, to allow people to step back has allowed voices to step up. And I think you all are in a very powerful position right now that you can actually change the industry in which you work. And then, like you said, when you see that representation in that industry, it's going to start changing the mentality of the United States, of the world.
And
go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no, Diane, go ahead.
I was just, I definitely believe that. And, I started something called Broadway Diversity Project just as a platform to start shouting out, the idea of be the change you want to see. So we always just shouted out the teams that would do this out of the box casting. But Dr. Keith, I can't stop thinking about what you just said about this lack, the scarcity mentality, and how people, it's like that's a construct we need to dismantle. And I think no one's actually really talking about it enough. It's actors and artists in general, we ride that line of capitalism versus something more divine, right? And it's a really hard thing that's not only in America that's happening because of that elusive American dream. We have to start I would love to hear somebody else talk more about this, because like this myth of capitalism is not a myth, but this myth of the American dream, the scarcity myth, and how we need to rethink our approach to it, because it is so prevalent in our business. And it is, until we deal with it, these are all just pipe dreams. It's going to be performative until we all like deeply believe that we believe in a different construct, that there is enough to go around, that this is the world we need to see. I think that's just dropping that thought in the bucket, because I'm not gonna be able to stop thinking about it. It's gonna be my new hill to die on.
Your new project. Yeah, it's very powerful to go from that scarcity mentality to an abundance mentality, that we already have enough that everybody can have a piece, that we can all participate together. And it is very important, and it is not addressed, like you said. So it is something,
And my only concern is this, right? In regards to our industry specifically, what they're trying to do is get the spruce goose to fly. They're trying to get Broadway reopened, right? So the priority, and I understand that, and I see it, the priority is getting Broadway reopened, period. What people are screaming about and what they're so fearful about, which I understand why they would be, why I'm partially in that camp too. We're screaming loudly right now because we are worried that that is a priority. That is the priority. And that the other work that we've all done is going to be put to the back burner. And we have been waiting a long time. So we can be put to the back burner for a little bit. But the fear is that they're just going to keep going, and then the hamster wheel will start back up again.
And then it'll go back to business as usual.
And then this will be disregarded. And we cannot allow that to happen. And, there is a definite shift internally. I think that certain behaviors and certain microaggressions that are happening in buildings and theaters will be spoken out against. People will no longer tolerate certain microaggressions coming, and they'll say, "Ow, I'm sorry, did you just hear what you just said? That doesn't sit well with me." Or, "Did you know that was racist? Did you understand that what you just said was a little bit racist?" Those kinds of things I think will have, permanent change from this point forward. But I'm talking about opportunity. I'm talking about true representation. I'm talking about people at the other side of the table making decisions, the decision makers, to make sure that doesn't fall back to what it used to be. That to me is a concern. And so, I know Diane has heard about this, and I think Anne too, is that I've started to look into doing some producing work myself, because, I love performing and I will always be a performer. But I also want to help be the part of the change and start nurturing projects that support our narratives, right? And support people of color so that our voices can be heard for a change. So that's, those are in the works. I've got a couple projects going, one with Diane. But yeah, I'm both excited and a little bit cautious and wary about reopening looks like. I cannot wait for us to reopen. I miss being a part of it. I miss sitting in the audience and watching it. It nourishes me. So, and I think that that's partially why our country, our world is losing its sense of compassion and heart, is because our arts have been obliterated by this. And where do we go to see life reflected is in the arts. And so I cannot wait for us to get back so that we can start being doing what we do, which is be a part of the healing process.
Right. I mean, I think of the theater as my church, and I know I am not the only one who thinks that way. That to me, it is a sacred space where we are all together, trying to achieve a beautiful, transcendent thing. So yes, I'm desperate for the arts to come back in a way that is more tangible than Zoom readings. Not that I don't appreciate them, but it's not the same. So
and hopefully
yeah.
work on material that changes minds and changes hearts and educates people. That's the kind of work that I'm looking for now. That's the kind of work that I want to be a part of, that I've always wanted to be a part of, and that I strive to participate in, and then hopefully in the future, produce. So
I want to say I love the idea of you as a producer. I'm 1,000% on board with that. Anything you ever want, I'll be your cheerleader on that. I hear you, and I think the arts teaches us empathy, and I think that has been something that has been really, really hard to go without. I will say, in response to your concern about the industry reopening, I share that concern. The one thing I can add that is like slightly optimistic is that I'm part of a lot of groups that are meeting, of producers and directors and people who have a lot of power in the industry, who are really, at least appear very committed to making sure that we do start to really tackle these systems. And I will say Muse is very committed. I mean, we meet, twice a week, and it's a group of people that are, incredibly committed to breaking down these systems and creating better access and better support, and just really bringing more voices to the table. And I think that's really what it boils down to, is like making space. It's not about kicking people off the bench. It's about making a longer bench, and I think that's where that scarcity mindset that you brought up, Dr. Keith, has to be, when it pops up, it has to be sort of reframed for people.
A conversation that happened, I want to say a decade ago. I specifically remember Christine Toy Johnson, who's an actress and writer, Asian American, and somebody had asked her, but there aren't enough Asian actors who can play leads, right? And so there was that comment that was thrown at her, and I recalled her response was, first of all, that's not true. And secondly, there will be more of us if you give us the opportunity to play the leads. Because how does anybody become a lead unless somebody's given that opportunity? And then how does anyone be better at being a leading player than when they are given more and more opportunities? I know that I grow as an artist with each project that I do. And the more you have to play, the greater of an arc, the more fully rounded, fully fleshed out characters that you get to play. It only breeds confidence, and then they can bring more to the table the next time. Your artists will bring more the next time. So I encourage that too, right? I just remembered her saying that.
So I also feel the need to drop in that anybody that's watching that who has an inkling to say like, I want to be a casting director. I want to be a director, and I'm an Asian female. I want to be a producer. I want to be a general manager. Those are things that are woefully needed in right now. Um, so there is room, and this is the time, and you should definitely pursue it. You know, like I have always wanted to be a director. It was a dream that I never allowed myself to even think about, because I literally had the thing in my head. I was always saying, who would listen to little me, to little brown me, you know, saying these things. No one respected me. No one respected my voice. I had a lot of things to say. No one did. It wasn't until Blair Lee said, your voice is needed, and took me under her wing and got the ball rolling for me in that way. You know, I'm still in development. I'm you know, but this is something that I was like, oh, I never thought that someone would actually listen to my voice. And I just feel sad for that girl who thought this 20 years ago when she was in school, thinking, oh, I would like to do this, but I'm not going to. No, it's best if I just sing as loud and high as I can.
Mhm.
That instead.
Well, it's because that's what you saw.
Yeah.
You know, there were examples of people who could sing high and loud, but
Mhm.
you didn't see Asian female directors. You didn't see producers. You didn't see people who had more of the power behind the table and behind the scenes. And so you felt like no one would listen to you because you didn't see it for yourself, experience it for yourself. I mean, that's the whole point of representation. That's why we keep banging this drum over and over again. It's like people need to see it. They need to see it for themselves. They need to experience it in a way that isn't just sort of like, maybe I could be. That's like me going like, well, maybe I could be an astronaut. You know, it's
Right.
like, maybe, you know, and we have had an Asian astronaut, but from Hawaii even. But for me to see, you know, people who look like me on stage, who look like me on film and in TV, like it opens your mind and you go like, it's possible. It's, you know, it's a thing. Maybe there are no parts for me, but it doesn't mean I can't try, you know? And I think that's the curse of all of us collectively, you know,
Well,
maybe there
I
are
mean,
no parts for me, but I should try. I can try.
that's tomorrow. I'm having a conversation with, I'm co-hosting a conversation with one of my agents to speak to all of our Asian American Pacific Islander clients. And it's a
Great.
closed, you know, room for
Yeah.
us to air our grievances, to talk about moments where we've felt discriminated, and then to speak with all of the agents, both in our LA office and our New York office, on how they can help support us for the future and how to move forward and how they can better represent us, and, you know, what kind of roles that they should push for, you know, and what kind of roles are we done playing? You know, like having those kinds of conversations. We're done, you know, some of us are done playing the prostitutes or being even asked to audition for that, right? But, you know, that's a whole other thing. But I encourage, if anybody's listening, if they are an actor and have agents themselves, to maybe encourage their agencies to have these kinds of conversations, because they're representing you. So if everybody can pitch in, this will all get helped.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. I'm coming to this from a completely different field and ignorant. But in my mind, if you make it to casting directors, if you make it to the producers, you've already made it. It seems like it's already a closed door system. So how do people who are new have influence over these people who are already in charge? Does that make sense?
Well,
I mean, like, how does one become a casting director or a producer? This may not be the space for this, but
you know, they mentor people. They hire interns. They, you know, and especially nowadays, they understand the danger of a non-paid internship. So there are a lot of these organizations are making spaces for and budgets to help support interns, because that's a whole other thing. It's like, who can afford to be a free intern, right? Usually the people who already have money, right? And so I think that is shifting as well. I just feel like there are also a lot of foundations that you can apply to for scholarships and funds. And, I'm trying to do this. Can you help me with this? I think we can all I can definitely do some research and figure that out too. But I think I can't say across the board, but I feel like that is shifting where free internships are no longer a thing. Because they realize that is in and of itself marginalizing.
Right.
Completely. It is. It's completely, because you're denying access to anyone that doesn't have money
Right.
to be able to afford that.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing we're doing at Muse is we're really looking at arts education for younger, for middle school. Like, what does it mean to get representation in middle school? When you're still like studying and becoming and getting to see what opportunities could exist. I think that's such an important thing to be able to make sure we're also doing.
Absolutely. I mean, the high school students who then apply for colleges, if they don't see themselves in the arts, they're not going to apply for those programs, which then also give you a leg up. If you have a college education in the arts, you're more likely to be able to perform in the arts later on. So I'm so grateful that you're starting them in grade school. That's fantastic.
Yeah, we have some exciting initiatives that we're going to roll out this year that I'm really jazzed about, that make me hopeful. But yes, there's a lot to do. There's a lot to do.
Mary, you've always been so fantastic. I mean, between your work with A-Step, your work with Muse now, and so much more, you just have always, this has been your fight for decades. So
well,
Yes,
trying, but I just think it's so important. I think, providing people with the ability to use their voice, like all three of you have mentioned in different ways. And one word we keep thinking about is agency, and just like making sure that we are giving people agency, that they get to have enough support around them to be able to make those choices and to be able to pursue their dreams. It's like, how do we create that world? Because that's the world I want to live in. Oh, what, Dan?
Just got chills, because it's like, yes, this is what we want, is for people to use their gifts and to because that's going to make a better world. That sounds so Pollyanna, but it's a different vibration. It's a different level of thinking where, we all can do where we feel most called to do. We all know what it's like to feel like you're called to do something where you can't drop it. Like, I would so much rather not to have to say the things I have to say all the time. I'd rather just be quiet, but I just can't stop myself. But it's everyone being able to choose. It's all about choice these days, right? When we talk about feminist issues, when we talk about this thing happening in France with the hijab, we talk about agency over women's bodies. It's that word agency and choice, that's a whole nother.
And I'm just going to bring up again with Anne, and quote Anne to herself is that, she said, and that stuck with me very, very much, is that, we want to be cast for our souls and not for our faces. And here's the thing, on a greater level than just speaking for performers and actors, just across the board, as people,
Right.
we want to be recognized for our souls and not our faces, because that is where the harm is coming right now. People are harming us because of our faces and not actually connecting with our souls. And we're losing that. We're losing connection with each other. And it makes sense. We are literally in Zoom squares right now. We are so disconnected physically. And so it's not a surprise that all of this is happening, in addition to many other things that have caused this to happen. Terrible rhetoric, but we just need to reconnect. We need to connect, period. Some of us have not connected ever.
As humans, instead of as like, oh, you're putting literally each other in a box.
In a box. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate all of you coming in today. And this is a really powerful conversation that I'm honored to be part of. So thank you for holding this space with us. I just want to end with asking each of you one question, which is, what is your favorite thing to do for self-care?
Oh, this is easy for me. I like to get under the covers, like on my window seat, preferably with an Agatha Christie novel that I've read 45 times already. And like to sort of hide under my comforter and read it with the sun shining. That's it.
I'm gonna
Diane.
give that a try.
Mine's not that different. It's in my bed with a heating pad and journaling, writing all my feelings.
Self-care for me is turning off all the devices, shutting out the noise, and focusing on my family and spending time with my family. That is nourishing to me. And also like the walks in the park are huge for me. When the weather is nice and you can breathe in the fresh air, when you take a moment with your mask off and then put it back on. But you know, the nature is replenishing for me.
Agree. I love nature also. Thank you so much for your willingness to talk. And I know it's not the easiest of situations to have to put yourself in to speak about, but I love your eloquence and your wisdom and the amazing advice you have. And you're all three, just, I sort of worship all three of you and have for a long time. So it's really meaningful. Thank you so much. And thanks everybody for joining us, and I hope you take this information forward and take it to heart. Have a
Thank
great
you for having us.
Thank you.
Happy Wellness Wednesday.
bye.
Bye.
Bye.